I've seen this consistent theme amongst people inside the community, and I want to talk about it, which is this is something that has happened at multiple stages within my business career, and it's extended seasons of saying no. And so, if we define focus as the quality and quantity of things that you turn down or say no to, then to be the most focused person, you would literally do nothing but one thing. And so if I am a very focused, drinker of fluids, I would continue to drink fluids at all hours of the day. I would stay awake. I would do nothing but drink fluids. And so I hear many of you say that you want to focus more, but you haven't really even defined what it is. And so you think it's going to be about like trying harder to look at your screen, when most of focus is actually the active removal of things that drain attention. And so what happens is kind of like value is created by removing all friction. Focus is created by removing all distraction. And so you like the most focused people, it's not that they have willpower that you lack, it's just that they have removed the distractions that you have. And so I remember this talk with a friend of mine who's an Olympic coach. And he was saying the difference between people who win the gold medal and kind of the other competitors, people look at them and say, I wonder what they have that I don't. But more often, it's what do I have that they lack? And so in those instances, it's typically an off switch. But it's also what are the things that I'm doing with my time that they aren't? And so fundamentally, it's not even that they're getting a higher return for the time they're putting in. They're just simply putting in more time. And what feels incomprehensible for you is that you could put more time into whatever you're trying to pursue right now. But you can by removing things. And so some of these are mental focused things. And so, one of my favorite quotes is that the heaviest thing in the world isn't iron or gold. It's an unmade decision. And that's a quote from me. So man, super deep. But for real though, you probably have a few decisions that you need to make. And one of the big fallacies around decision making is that it takes time to make decisions. And it really doesn't. You make decisions in an instant based on information. And so, by the way, for those of you who sell, when someone is in this kind of like, I need to think about it, it's like, what do you need to think about it? And what information would be required in order to make a decision? And so some of you need to define the variables of what would make this a yes. And alternatively, if you don't know, then what would make it a no? And then you can reverse engineer the yes. And so in either circumstance, some of you need to focus by eliminating the unmade decisions in your life by simply making them. And there's this big fallacy at all levels of business of the perfect pick, which is that you're going to be able to somehow pick perfectly. And most decisions have to be made with imperfect information. And oftentimes, if you have perfect information about an opportunity, the opportunity has expired. And so one of the things that makes opportunities is the risk inherent in incomplete information. And so sometimes you just have to move and learn along the way. And so one of the easiest visuals I have for this is the mist, is walking through mist, right? As you walk through mist, the next few feet are always become clear to you, right? And when you walk your way up a mountain, and now imagine a mountain that you're walking through mist, right? You keep walking, you keep taking the next step. You might get to a maximum and be like, wow, this is a mountaintop. But then you see a little bit further because of the mist and you realize you're at a subtop and you have to take a few steps down. But the thing is that you'll always be further away than the people who are trying to plot the perfect path from the bottom of the mountain without being able to see the top. So you'll always be able to have better perspective after taking action, after taking motion. And so the reason that this has been top of mind for me is that the big growth periods that I've had in my life in terms of finances have typically followed, or at least happened concurrently with extended periods of what I call seasons of no. And what's interesting is that I'm sure this has been studied in research, but we know that people are significantly less effective when they try to do multiple things. So multitasking, you're significantly less effective when it comes to output per unit of time. You switch back and forth and it kills your efficiency by like 75%. And so if we consider our leverage as the difference between what we get for what we put in, then skill is a great lever on work. Meaning, and if work we define as output, then the more skilled person for the time they put in will have more output. So skill equals leverage, work equals output. The more skill you have, the more output you get. And so if you can get more output, then it means that choosing to do fewer things is in and of itself a skill. And I think I bring this up because some of you are like, man, I'm not that focused. But the thing is that the focus isn't a trait, it's an action. And you can do this on a repeated basis so that you can become more focused by simply exercising focus. That means choosing to make unmade decisions so that you can resolve them, knowing that they may be imperfect, but you have the ability to course correct along the way. There are very few decisions in business that are truly irreversible, and especially when you're starting out, because the stakes are so low. And so you're not making bets that are so big. And so to the point I was making earlier, the biggest periods of growth in my life have occurred when I committed wholeheartedly to periods where I would do nothing else. And so like currently I'm actually in one of those periods right now, which is why it's partially top of mind for me and also in reading some of the comments that you guys put out there. And I think the big thing that people miss is that it's a trade-off. And so one of the issues is that basically people have a preference problem, which is that they want these results their way. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want the outcome, but they want to change the variables that create the outcome. They want a six-pack, but they don't want to do the workout and the nutrition plan. But they're like, but I want the six-pack. Can I change the nutrition plan? Can I change the workouts and then I'll get the six-pack? And the answer is obviously no. And so the thing is that some of you have come to this world with the desire, my world, whatever, with the desire to get those outcomes. And I applaud you for that. But that applause is short-lived if you want to change the variables. And so most of you have a huge deficit in work capacity. And so my point around this, and I'll give you a fitness example because a lot of people wouldn't understand it, and then I'll translate it back to work, like knowledge work. But whenever you work out, you damage a muscle and then it overcompensates and you recover and you get a little bit stronger, right? That's kind of the basic idea. Okay, so think about like digging a hole, you put more dirt back in, a little bit comes on top. That little bit extra is kind of the hypertrophy, is the gain. Okay, so the issue with most people's focus here, where was I going there? I had workout. I did two analogies and I forgot my where I was going from. Do you know where I was going? Yeah, Kirby's like, I have no idea. Thank you. Just so you guys know, I'm also human. Yes, fully ironic on the focus front. Okay, so the workout analogy as it comes down to work. Work capacity. Okay, so work capacity itself is that people understand it that way. And so then people have this fear of overtraining, overworking, right? They're like, I don't want to work too much, right? I don't want to work out too much. I'll damage myself too much. But the missing variable that people have when it comes to building muscle, just as much as it comes to working, is that your work capacity itself is trainable. Meaning, if you're an athlete and you train and you damage the muscle and then it grows, you actually, over time, your ability to withstand the work improves, meaning you can add more volume without overtraining. Your recovery capacity to put dirt back in the hole actually speeds up. You get a bigger shovel that can move more dirt faster. And so the reason this is important is that when we relate it back to the work that we do, I had this attorney tell me this when I was about to say a child, when I was 21, Kirby's age. And so I said, man, I've been working so hard. And she just looked at me and laughed. And she said, you don't even know how to work. And it was such a jarring moment for me because she was a partner at this firm and I was trying to impress everybody. And I thought I was like, doing a gung-ho job. And she just laughed at me. She's like, you don't even know how to work. She's like, it takes you 10 years just to learn how to work. And I remember thinking, being a little bit disheartened by that at the beginning. But I feel like now looking in retrospect, I can absolutely agree that my ability to work itself has improved, my capacity has improved. But the way to improve that capacity is to start eliminating the things that currently drain your focus right now. And so then all of a sudden you realize, once you kind of like have the bare naked truth of your calendar in front of you have nothing else left, and then you still are struggling to stay focused, then you can begin the work on your work capacity. And so the big piece number one is the unmade decisions. You want to eliminate those by making them. The second big piece is that you want to eliminate the things that are not the work, right? And so a lot of people obsess about, morning routines, things like that. You want to eliminate all that stuff. The next category is going to be relationships and hobbies. All right. And so some of you guys may have hobbies, and I want to be clear. There are hobbies that are basically function as rest. So if your work output per unit of time over a long period of time, and I want to be clear about this, you can always work more in 24 hours if you only had 24 hours to work. You just shouldn't sleep. You shouldn't do anything, take a ton of stimulants, and you'd work more. But over a week, you lose productivity. And so my point here is that you not rest. You should work as much as you possibly can and then rest as efficiently as you can so that you can resume work at max output. And so for you, if gardening is a thing or playing video games is a thing or whatever, I see that as separate from playing video games as getting in the way of work. If you work first and then you allow yourself to reward yourself with video games at the end of your workday, that actually does two things. It actually gives you a reward for work and it gives you rest, which is nice. And so I would encourage some of you guys to put off extended periods of time before the thing that you might want to do more. And I want to kind of disclaim or decry actively the idea that everything that you're about to embark on, whatever season you're in, is going to be fun. Like there's the vast majority of the things that I do every day aren't that fun. I do enjoy what we build. And so if you want to build this big chateau, this big castle, laying bricks, not that fun. Like digging moats, not digging trenches, not that fun. Like cutting wood, nailing it in, not necessarily that fun. But when you have a castle and you get to live inside of it, you're like, this is pretty dope. But the thing is just like, so people have this big conflation there, right? Between the thing that they want to get and the process of getting there. And it's a very pithy soundbite to say like, you should just, never work a day in your life again if you do what you love. But no one does what they love all the time to do the things, to get the things they want. And I'm actively about this. And so zooming back out with regards to business owners in different